Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Client Success Roundtable. Today is the St. Patty's Day edition, so you're always going to know the date of this event. But this is one of my favorite ones. When Glenn and Jordan brought it to me, they said, here's what we want to do. We want to talk about analytics. We know we live in a data-driven world. Right? And how important are analytics? Everybody knows I put on in-person job fairs for 9 years before we developed the software. And after every event, I used to walk up to my clients and I would say, how many people did you talk to? I don't know. How many resumes did you get? I don't know. How many interviews did you schedule? I don't know. They couldn't give me any data. So when I built Premier Virtual, I wanted analytics. I wanted data to be able to have that. And today, Glenn and Jordan are going to show you not just why analytics are important to look at an event and say, hey, here's what happened at an event. That's important. But what's even more important is how do you use that data for your next events to make everything better, right? I always believe, right, the more you learn, the more you earn, right? You always should be learning. You need to take this data to learn how to make and improve your next events. So as always, we have Glenn and Jordan. Welcome. Excited to be on here with you once again. So I'm going to throw it over to you and show our clients how and why data is important and how to use that to improve your next events. Glenn, Jordan, the floor is yours today.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, Steve. Excited to be here to talk about analytics and how to use that to better your future events. So as a host, you know that every single event that you run has its own manage event screen. And that manage event screen has a details tab that is full of information that can really show you what worked, what maybe needs to be improved, and how we can better future events. So we are looking at a details page of an event that has happened here on our platform. And I'm just going to start out and then I'll toss it over to Jordan here. But one of the things that you're going to see here is the booth activity. And we get a lot of questions from our customers of when should an event run? How long should it run? What's the best days? What's the best times? This graph right here is going to give you those answers. And when you look at an event that has happened and you look at the results after, this booth activity has a sliding scale here, and you can set it to the times of your event. And as you can see, this event was 10 to 2. So I have 10 to 2. And you can see that as most events, all of those candidates come in right there in the beginning. They're steady throughout, and then towards the end, they drop down. Now, when you look at this graph, sometimes you may find another answer that all of a sudden that people aren't coming in the beginning, and maybe they're coming in the middle, and maybe you're doing the event at the wrong time. This first block will also show you your total booth visits in your entire event. So this is going to show you, how many candidates were in there, how active they were, and how many booths they were visiting throughout the event. But I just wanted to kind of start out with this one too, because we do get asked quite a bit as far as timing. And this is a great tool to see how your event worked and if you do need to adjust any times. Jordan, I'll hand it off to you to go into the next piece of information and how you utilize that to better your customers' events.
Before you get into that, though, Jordan, I want to ask you, do you think there's a length of time that is too long for an event?
I do. Yeah.
How many hours do you think a job fair should be?
Anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, I think is a good, it's like the sweet spot for events. And you can actually see that in this booth activity graph right in here, that the event started at 10 a.m. and it carried on until 2 p.m. And right here in the graph, you can see that in the very, very top was the highest amount of visits in this event. And then it slowly started to decline at 2 p.m. where it started to fizzle out. So you can see right in this graph that 10 to 2, those 4 hours was the sweet spot for this event, particularly from 10 to 2 p.m. You can also see that towards the middle of this graph here, there's a top jobs and there's a top booth section. Now, this is great information to have. You can see here, you know, which jobs had the most resume submissions, which booths were visited the most out of this event, but it also tells you some more information. So under that top job section, it's going to let you know the titles of those jobs and how many resumes they received. So if we're looking at, let's see that first one there, the remote job, there were 252 resumes submitted to this job. That is obviously showing you that this job in particular, there's a lot of interest in this job. Maybe you can focus on having an event specifically, you know, with these types of companies that provide this job or something adjacent to that, or any of these jobs in this section here. Same thing goes for the top booths. If you were looking to, you know, maybe have a highlighted event for a company in particular in this list, or maybe just for those companies, you can see that these companies are very, very popular, that the candidates in this area are looking to work for these companies. So why not drive even more traffic to those companies and have specific events just for them?
Yeah, and you can, you know, take it where maybe you have them sponsor an event too. If they're getting that much traffic in there, and if you're an association that monetizes your events, why not do an event for them? You know, or if you're a nonprofit or a workforce board, you may not monetize those, but if you see that that company has that much traction, that people are that interested in them, maybe have a Workforce Wednesday hiring event just for that company. Using the analytics and the data that's there in front of you can help your clients, which is your end user. Is that your job seeker? Is that your employer? That data gives you so much more. And again, going back even to the time aspect of it, you know, you can really look at how many people are registering for an event and say, okay, do I want this a 2-hour event? Do I want these a 4-hour event? Am I doing events across the entire country that I want to hit, you know, multiple time zones? You know, I just talked to a client today and they're going to do a national hiring event. So I said, okay, we're going to do that event from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock Eastern so that you can hit the entire West Coast, and it's still early in the day for them. And it's not too early when you started the event, but you hit all of those. And that's a very large event. So it'd be 4 hours. If it was a smaller event, I would have told them, hey, why not do it for 3 hours? Again, a lot of that stuff that you can look at, because what is your ideal goal when you create this job fair is to connect this employer with this job seeker. And how do you do that? Right? We had a lot, and you know, I've told this story before, is the first time when I went from in-person job fairs to virtual job fairs, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have an all-day job fair. I'm going to from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I was excited about this, right? This was, you know, 2018. Nobody was really doing a lot of virtual job fairs back then. And I was telling my clients, look, we're going to get that 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock people that are unemployed that go to daytime job fairs. Then you're going to get the people at lunch that can log in, talk to a little bit of companies, and then they'll come back in, and maybe the shift workers that get on a 2 or 3. And then the people like me that have kids that can come in after, right? After dinner, right before bedtime or after bedtime, and they can put these kids in. And it sounded amazing. And then the day of the job fair, reality slapped me in my face. From 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, the event was slam packed, but then it started to go down. So the last 2 hours of the event went down. And then guess what? By 2 o'clock, nobody logged in, but the event was still technically going on. So what happened with these recruiters when nobody was logging in after 2 o'clock? Shut their laptops. They were good, right? By 5 o'clock, they were gone for the day. Well, what happened at 5:30? Shoot, it skyrocketed. From 5:30 to 6 o'clock or 6:30, huge numbers again. After 6:30, it died down again, right? There was really nobody logging in. And that's when I realized way too long of a job fair. And when people come to me today and they say, Steve, I want to do a day-long job fair, I tell them they're making a mistake. And it's too long. You want to drive these candidates in, right? Date, time, location. And that location, it's virtual, right? If it's in person, it's there. You don't have a 24-hour in-person job fair. Why? Because you have your recruiters at one place, one location, your candidates, one place, one location, putting them together. Do the
Right.
same thing on virtual.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
you think that you give more, right? That you have more time, but it doesn't, right? The candidates are sitting there, oh, I'll go next hour. I'll go next hour. They take their phone call from their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whoever. Next thing you know, maybe they turn on the TV, Jerry Springer's on, they kick up their feet, they start watching Jerry Springer. 6 hours later, they didn't log in, right? Because they thought the job fair was so long.
Right.
Keep it short, keep it specific, drive your candidates, organizations, same time, same location.
And another thing that goes really, that's really important in, virtual events, period, is the marketing of it. So Glenn, can you tell us a little bit about how within these details, can you see, what marketing tactics are working, or, how you can make your marketing better, and get into that on the details page?
Yeah. One of the best things I think we added to this was this registration graph. Now, this right here, you're going to be able to see little spikes when you send out, whether it be something on social media, whether you send out an email campaign, whether there was flyers sent out. You can see right in here that every time that there was a spike, that's a reaction to a marketing effort. Something went out to cause that. So then you can see this spike right here on October 5th, 537 candidates have registered. And then you see a little bit of a drop. And then the next day you see a smaller spike. Well, what did we do on that day? We still gained 148 people that day. It wasn't as large as the previous spike, but you can kind of track your marketing efforts all the way through of what action you took and what results you got here on your graph. We always know also that there's going to be a spike at the end. Job seekers always wait. There's hesitation in getting right to it. So at the last second, they're getting in there. And then you're always going to see just before that event begins, there's that final spike of all those people that had that information, but just didn't, get into there to set up their profile yet. But I just think this is such a valuable tool, especially if there's paid marketing out there. You want to know what efforts are working so that you can improve them for the next event and increase your numbers going forward. So one of my favorite things here on the details page.
And you can really see, right, if you're doing paid marketing, and let's say one day you do, we'll just say social media 1, and you had a huge spike. And the next day you did social media 2, a different social media site, and it didn't work. It didn't go. Well, maybe now you don't have to spend money there. Day 3 or the next week,
Exactly.
you do an email campaign. Well, that goes up. Well, hey, that works, right? So you can really look as where do I want to put my budget as I'm marketing for these events?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. There's 2 other pieces of information on this that I wanted to kind of go over, and then we're going to look at another event. But you're going to see at the bottom here, you have these category visits, and then you have that top experience. And I know Jordan was touching on this before, but this can really tell you also, hey, this was a little bit larger of an event. We had, different types of industries and different types of companies and different types of positions. But by looking at this, you can kind of see that, hey, there's different categories, and which ones were the busiest out of all the categories that you had. Well, this might tell me that, hey, there's a lot of people going into, let's say, outpatient, and we might need to do something with an outpatient, healthcare type of an event. When we look over at the top experiences, these are the averaged out experiences that candidates added to their profiles. And on this one here, you can clearly see CPCA is the most selected one. So maybe that's a dedicated event just for those types of positions. So just another piece of valuable information down there on the bottom between the category visits and the top experience.
And just to talk about the top experiences, how exciting is it that, during these big job fairs, a lot of times the recruiters aren't just staring at resumes. They don't have time. But we built that top experience with over 5,000 experiences in there. Anything you can think of, down to a dog walker, right? Is these candidates are filling out their profile, and not just a resume, like some other places, but true experience that they have, even their tops, if they have security clearances or certain certifications out there. So these recruiters can see these top experiences of what they have, not only, and we'll talk about that in a different one, but they can search for certain kind of experiences. So if recruiters were there looking for medical coders, they could search for medical coders and invite them to their room. So they're using this data that's here to drive the right people to their rooms.
Exactly.
Very
Absolutely.
excited about that experience and why that is so important.
Yeah, and you as the host have the capability of helping your employers get those quality candidates to their booth with maybe having specific events specific to industry, or just if you're looking at the work experience, you can have more events focused on employers who are looking for that type of work experience to hire for. So
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. The data that you're getting out of here is really going to be able to help you to determine what your next event is going to be.
Right.
So speaking of the next event,
yeah, but you know, one thing to talk about this report is, like we've seen, right? How great is it? It's all live. You don't have to wait for the other company to send you reports that you have to weed through. This data is all live in front of you, and you can export it right through the Premier Virtual Dashboard for every single event that you have.
Yep. Absolutely. So on this event, this is the largest event that we have ever held. As you can see,
ever been held. The largest job fair ever was on the Premier Virtual platform.
Over 17,000 job seekers on this event. But we're still looking at this details page that has all this valuable information. So I'm going to start down here because I covered it before, but the registration. So in this event, there was some paid advertising that was done that was pushed out by the governor. And you can see here that in the beginning, this was probably some of the social media and email pushes. And then all of a sudden, bam, 31.25 in a day. So this is where that marketing kicked in. And if you're working with partners that are paying for advertising sources, you want to be able to show them that, hey, this day we sent this out and this is the result that we got. So this graph definitely looks a little bit different from the last one, but here, this chunk right here, this is where that paid marketing came into play.
Another thing to talk about though, too, is because, you know, we've mentioned paid marketing a few times. A lot of these workforce boards, they don't have a budget to be able to do that. How do you use that is see, when did we send out email campaigns? You know, and you'll be able to see, hey, this day we sent it out maybe to the veterans. Maybe we sent it out this day to something else. So what you can do is you can really look and use that data to say, okay, when did we send these email campaigns out, to track that data?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So it's not just all about the paid advertising, it's what you're doing to track what are you doing and what works.
Yeah. How frequently are you doing it? The substance of what you're providing. Maybe you got to look back and see what was actually included in the marketing information that you provided, tweak that a little bit. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, you can see the results of your kind of trial and error process. If it's your first time having these events, this graph is really going to be, you know, very, very helpful to you.
So one other thing on this one here, you'll see is, once again, when we look at those top experiences, you're taking a large portion of candidates here, 17,000 candidates. You can clearly see that there is two fields there's just a ton of candidates out there looking for jobs. So between the customer support representative and business managers, these two right here could probably be another event in itself.
Yeah.
Because you have that many candidates out in the market looking for positions in those fields.
At least 2,000 from this event. We're looking for that specifically. So yeah, that's a good catch there.
Yep.
And not only do you find analytics, what was that, Glenn?
I was gonna say, you want to move on to one more? Do we have time to see one more?
I think we
Steve?
got time to see one more because I think it's important for them to see kind of the data from a job seeker side or an attendee side, what you can see from that aspect of the data.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's not just job fairs that we have on the platform. You guys have seen, our use cases video where there's workshops, veterans events, all different types, hybrid, even just in-person registration, all different types of ways the platform's being used. Now, for example, the events that are just workshop based, how are you going to track if, Susie went to the live sessions workshop, or if she went to this workshop? How do you get that data of who actually attended these? Because you get people to be live during those times to give those workshops. You want to make sure that, that it is for something that people are, attending. So Glenn, can you talk about and show us how we may be able to find that information in the platform?
Sure, absolutely. So, in this event, like Jordan said, this is a workshop event, so you're not seeing any jobs. Here are the booths that they had in this event. And one of them that you're going to see is these live sessions. So when we had this event, you want to be able to see who really went into these sessions. So you do have all of your reports here. So when you come in to pull your reports and you're doing a workshop event, so if we came in here and pulled our job seeker report, here's the data for you. So we took out some of the information here just to show you your first names, but you can see here there was these candidates that came into this event. You can see here are their job seeker registration questions that they answered. This is information that the host was asking for. But if we slide over all the way to the end, you're going to be able to see the visits columns. So this is going to take every candidate and show you exactly where they went. And when you look under visited organizations, you can clearly see who made it to the live sessions. So every single candidate in here, from what I'm seeing, made it to that live session.
Perfect. I mean, so yeah, you can really use this for your attendees and everything with this data. I mean, that's just exciting to be able to really see what they did. As your teams are talking with the job seekers, hey, how was the job fair? Who did you talk to? How did the conversation go with ABC Mortgage, right? You're able to use that. So as you can see today, we all know there's a ton of data in the Premier Virtual Platform, but how you're using the data is what you really got to think about. Yeah. How can we make our events better by using and analyzing the data that we give you? So thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Jordan, spending a little time with me today to really go over why the data is so important. And again, it's because of you all that, we get so many accommodations and people coming to us because of the things that you do like this, not just on a call with me, but on a daily basis with our clients to make their events better. So thank you. And again, the Premier Virtual Roundtable with our client success team. We'll see you all at the next one. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank
you. You're very welcome. Thanks for listening.